Hi guys, so we're going to be talking about lesson 84 today, algebraic terms. On the board I have written geometry 13, 19, and 20. Those are the ones you do not have to do. Please make sure you write those on your paper so you're not Skyping and wondering if you have to do those, okay? Okay, first thing is turn to page 510 in your books. On page 510 there's some definitions that you guys need to be familiar with. The first one is a monomial, and then binomial and trinomial. So what in the world is that? Well, basically those terms describe the type of expressions we're going to be dealing with. On the board I have written two expressions, example 1 and example 2, and you can see that they're long, 3x plus y plus x minus y. For example 2 we have 3x plus 2x squared plus 4 plus x squared minus x and minus 1. So on your chart here, it explains that a monomial is one term. Now, what is a term? Well, a term is simply a part of an expression. So you have a term here, 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 and here. So when you first glance at it, it looks like there are four terms. Terms are separated by signs. So we see that there's sign between the 3x and the y makes this two different terms. And then the y is separated by the x with the plus. That's a different term. And then the negative is separating the x and the y. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, okay? Down here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms. When it's one term, we call it monomial. Now back to the 3x plus y. The 3x does not have any sign between it. So it is not 3 plus x. That would be a binomial. Think of a bicycle. Bicycles have two wheels. Bi means two. So this would be two terms, binomial. The 3x, though, it doesn't have a sign. So that is not binomial, that is monomial. It's one term. Okay? Now, when you have three terms, tricycle has three wheels, so tri means three. So three terms would be a tricycle. On the second example where I said there are 6 different terms, that's considered a polynomial. Poly means many, and so when you have many terms, you simply refer to it as a polynomial. Okay? Alright, so we're going to learn how to simplify these expressions, and we're going to see that when we simplify the expressions, this is actually not 4 terms, and this is actually not 6 terms. Okay? Back on page 511, there's some big bold definitions, and I need you guys to be sure you're reading it. So it says when a term is written without a number, it is understood that the number is 1. So let's look at 3x plus y. The y does not have a term. Let me stop for a second here. We have to understand some definitions. The 3 in this polynomial is called a coefficient. Okay, we've talked about coefficients before. Coefficients are numbers in front of variables that are being multiplied. Okay, this one, the x, is called the variable. So any letter in an expression is considered a variable. And think about science. Variable simply means it's depending upon whatever other things that affect it. So the variable x depends on being multiplied by 3. Okay. The y is a variable, the x is a variable, and the y is a variable. So the letters are variables, the number in front of a variable is a coefficient, and the number in the second expression, the number 4 and the number -1, those don't have any letters next to them. Those are not variables, and those are not coefficients. We call these constants. So think about science. In a constant, it's not changing. Okay, so those don't change. Those can be combined, but they're not affected by anything else. Okay, so let me rewrite that as a 4. Take this off. Okay, so now that we've covered what a coefficient, a variable, and a constant is, it's time to simplify this expression. Now, I said before that terms can be separated by signs. So the plus y means that this is one term. The plus x is a different term, and the plus y, negative y is another term. So if I put a line, which is, you don't have to do that, but it might be helpful, you're going to see the different terms, 3x, positive y, positive x, and positive 1. Going back to page 511, it says when a term is written without a number, it is understood that the number is 1. So this has a number, a coefficient of 3, but the y does not. So I'm going to insert a 1 to help me simplify that expression. Okay? This x also does not have a number, so I'm going to put a 1 to help me simplify that expression. And then I'm going to insert a 1 on the negative y to help me simplify that expression. And it also says when a term is written without a sign, it is understood that that sign is positive. So the 3x does not have a sign, but we understand that there's actually a positive there. We just don't need to write it with a positive, okay? All right, so now that I've written my coefficients in, I'm ready to simplify my terms. Now, constant terms can be combined by algebraic addition. So if you struggle with the addition rules, this is going to give you a hard time. So remember, when you add numbers of different signs, okay, to add, we always adding same signs. Okay, we add same signs, but we subtract opposite signed numbers. Okay. So you have to memorize these rules, because if you don't, doing this is going to give you a hard time. You add the same sign numbers, but you subtract the opposite signed numbers. The rule about algebra, the thing about algebra that is really cool is whatever can be applied to a number always can be applied to a variable. So if it's true that you have same sign numbers that can be added and opposite sign numbers have to be subtracted, well, the same applies to a variable. So if I look at 3x and I notice that the coefficient is 3, I look for another x. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to regroup this problem to put my x's next to each other. So the idea is to do it alphabetically and put them together in the same group. Think about it like if you were alphabetizing something, or if you're looking in a phone book, or maybe even going to a library or something like that, and they have it ordered, right? So let's say phone book, and you wanted to look up a last name. Well, Hayden's name would come before my last name, Henry, because H-A comes before H-E. But they would be in the similar area. They would both be in the H section. So the X's are not exactly the same, but they're similar. So we're going to put them close to each other. We're going to regroup using our commutative property rules. So I'm going to bring the 3x down here. And I'm going to regroup and put the positive 1x over here. And notice when I bring down the 1x, I always bring down the sign with it, because if I don't, then it looks like multiplication. Okay, so I'll cross those off so that I know I already brought them down. Now I'm going to bring down the positive 1y and the negative 1y. Okay, now I'm ready to, I'm just going to go ahead and erase this, and I'll do that one in a minute. Okay. Now I'm ready to simplify. Now, again, add the same signed numbers. When you're adding like terms, the way that you simplify is you only add the coefficients. You leave the exponents, the variables alone. You cannot combine them if they're different variables, and I'll go over that in a moment. So the 3 plus the 1, this is one group. The 1y and the negative y is a different group. 3 plus 1 equals 4x. And then positive 1 minus 1, so 1 minus 1 would be positive, or actually would be negative, right? Because opposite signs would be negative 0y. And since we know that 0 times anything is 0, this becomes 0. So our answer is 4x only. Okay? So 4x would be the answer, and that is simplified. Okay, I'm going to start video number 2 for the next example. So I'll see you in a few minutes. If you need to take a break, do that now.